Canceled and delayed flights, long lines, and packed planes have become the new normal for air travel, which is worrying some travelers this holiday season.
I have been in line for almost an hour and have not moved.
In early October, Southwest canceled more than 2,000 flights over the span of 3 days due to scheduling problems. Later that month, American Airlines said staffing shortages contributed to the more than 1,900 flights scrubbed during Halloween weekend.
We've seen generally just more delays, more canceled flights, and several really bad episodes where there were kind of cascades of cancellations that resulted in thousands of flights being canceled over a couple of day period.
So what exactly is driving all of these airline disruptions? And what problems will passengers face as we head towards the holidays?
So air travel really was pretty much dormant last year due to the pandemic. Hardly anybody was traveling. And then that changed really dramatically this past spring.
Like many industries struggling with an increasingly tight labor market, airlines are facing staffing shortages.
While the airlines got a lot of government money last year to keep all their employees working or on the payroll at least, they really just had not enough for all of those employees to do. And they were concerned, how long is the pandemic going to last? So they encouraged, really urged a lot of employees who were close to retirement to retire early, or they asked people to take long-term leaves of absence, sometimes for a couple of years.
Now, airlines are racing to bring back workers and hire pilots, flight attendants, and ground staff. But hiring has been difficult as companies face fiercer competition for certain roles.
They are sort of seeing some strains in some of these positions, like ground workers and ramp workers and customer service and all the other thousands of people that are needed to make an airline run, but suddenly a lot of those potential employees have a lot of other options.
Meanwhile, the added burden of extra shifts and longer hours for the workers companies do have can lead to higher rates of staff burnout and sick leave.
So, for the employees who are there, some of them are complaining about new levels of strain, especially over the summer and the last couple of months. Airlines like at Southwest have been saying that they're having problems with higher rates of sick leave and absenteeism, and some of that might be due to COVID.
As a result, worker unions have become more vocal about another issue disrupting air travel: scheduling mismanagement. Typical hiccups that may have normally delayed a flight for one day turn into multi-day meltdowns caused by staff scheduling holes. Consider this domino effect. Over-optimistic flight scheduling in the midst of a staffing shortage may lead to employees being overworked, creating higher levels of staff burnout and sick leave, and leading to even more scheduling issues and canceled flights.
Pilots have said, maybe they're a little bit reluctant to pick up extra trips, when there's an option to pick up some overtime, because if you thought you'd be willing to work a 3-day trip, but if it turns into a 6-day trip unexpectedly, you're going to have a problem.
What we want to see is more efficient scheduling that goes on during these irregular operations.
In a November 13th memo to flight attendants, Southwest Airlines said it was adding more reserve crews to support the reliability of its scheduling. Of course, external factors like bad weather or technical issues play a role in airline disruptions too. But now, these issues are compounded by staffing shortages and scheduling issues, creating chain reactions that can leave thousands of passengers stranded.
American said it got knocked off course by a couple of days of really high winds in Dallas, and that resulted in traffic management programs in Dallas that led to fewer flights being able to take off from there, and that kind of backed up their whole system.
American Airlines says it is proactively canceling flights to provide more scheduling certainty for crews.
Airlines are trying to do things to make sure that people do keep showing up to work and they have the staffing they need.
Airlines are expecting a surge in holiday bookings amid declining COVID-19 cases and rising vaccination rates. But fuller planes and more robust flight schedules often mean more difficulties when things go wrong. To avoid staffing pitfalls and scheduling challenges, some airlines have scaled back flight options.
That's something we've seen with Southwest. It just has fewer flights than it used to. So when it does have something go wrong and it does need to put people on other flights to try and help them get where they need to go, if flights are full, that can be more difficult and there are just fewer recovery options.
Something else to consider when preparing for holiday travel: smaller airports may be overwhelmed by an increase in travelers.
So there's been a lot more demand for leisure travel to places in Florida, depending on the time of year, to ski destinations or places out west or national parks. And that just means some of these airports that had historically been pretty small or maybe not had huge traffic numbers are now just seeing an influx of new airlines adding service, more flights, more passengers.
Meanwhile, more crowds can also mean more unruly passengers. The Federal Aviation Administration reported over 5,000 passenger disputes so far this year. So travelers flying this holiday season are reminded to pack some patience.
Everyone's kind of going through it together a little bit, I guess. I think we're all just going to have to kind of learn how to do this again.